The massive alien ship drifted through empty space where Earth once shone like a blue jewel. Commander Vexthal stood before the main viewing screen, his scaled hands clasped behind his back. The planet below looked dead, burned, empty. "Are you certain of the readings, Dr. Kirazone?" he asked without turning around. The ship's lead scientist checked her instruments again. Her four eyes blinked in sequence as she studied the data. "Yes, Commander." "No life signs. No technology. No electromagnetic signals. The solar flare 3 years ago destroyed everything." Vexthal nodded slowly. Another primitive species had fallen to the harsh realities of space. It happened more often than the Galactic Council liked to admit. Young civilizations were fragile things. "Prepare the official report," he ordered. "Mark the human species as extinct. Classification: natural disaster, solar event, total population loss." Behind him, his officers worked at their stations. The report would go to 12 different species across the galaxy. Another box to check. Another world to write off. The universe was a dangerous place for those too weak to master it. Dr. Kirazone pulled up the final scans. "Commander, should we mention their space stations? The orbital facilities we detected during first contact?" "Gone," Vexthal replied. "Debris patterns show they fell into the planet's atmosphere during the flare event. Nothing survived." The truth was simpler than that. When the Zephyrian Empire had first made contact with humanity 5 years ago, they had not come in peace. They came as scouts for a much larger force. The humans had seemed friendly enough, eager to learn about the galaxy. Too eager, perhaps. The Galactic Council had rules about new species. They could join as junior partners following the guidance of older, wiser civilizations. Those who refused usually faced economic pressure, technological sabotage, or worse. Most species chose cooperation over conflict. Humans had chosen differently. "Sir," called Communications Officer Thekmar, "the Council is requesting immediate transmission of our findings." "Send it," Vexthal commanded, light years away. The message reached the Grand Council chamber on Zephyr Prime. 12 species sat around a circular table made of crystallized starlight. They listened as the report played through their translation devices. "The human species has been confirmed extinct," the message began. "Solar flare event designation SF2387 resulted in complete atmospheric disruption and technological collapse. No survivors detected. Recommend system classification as dead zone for next 50 standard years." Council Speaker Morden raised one of his 6 arms. "Any objections to the classification?" Silence filled the chamber. The Altarian representative shifted in his seat but said nothing. The Vegan delegate simply shook her head. Another species had failed to adapt to galactic realities. "Classification approved," Morden announced. "The Sol system is hereby marked as uninhabitable. All mining and exploration rights are transferred to the Zephyrian Empire for resource extraction." What the Council did not know was that other ears were listening to their conversation. Hidden deep in an asteroid belt billions of miles from dead Earth, Captain Jake Morrison sat in a chair made from salvaged metal. Around him, dozens of humans worked at computers and communication devices. "They bought it," he said to the woman standing beside him. Lieutenant Amy Stevens smiled grimly. 3 years of preparation, and they actually believe we're all dead." Jake turned to look at the massive screen showing the alien ship near Earth. The Zephyrians had no idea they were being watched. Human technology had advanced far beyond what the aliens had seen during first contact. They had learned to hide, to adapt, to survive. "How many made it out?" Amy asked. "Final count is just over 2 million, Jake replied. "Scattered across 47 different bases from here to the edge of the system. Not bad for a species that's supposed to be extinct." The evacuation had been humanity's greatest achievement. When it became clear that the aliens were not the peaceful explorers they claimed to be, world leaders had made an impossible choice. Rather than fight a war they could not win, they would disappear entirely. Every space station, every orbital facility, every trace of human presence had been carefully destroyed or hidden. The few humans who remained on Earth had taken shelter in deep underground bunkers, waiting for the aliens to leave. The solar flare story was perfect cover for the electromagnetic silence that now surrounded the planet. "Sir," called technician Bob Turner from his station, "we're picking up mining ship signatures heading for the asteroid belt. Looks like they're planning to strip mine the system." Jake's jaw tightened. The aliens thought they could just take whatever they wanted from a dead system. They had no idea what was waiting for them. "Alert all stations," he ordered. Phase 2 begins now. Time to show these visitors that reports of our death have been greatly exaggerated. Amy pulled up tactical displays, showing the locations of every human base. Ceres Station hidden inside the dwarf planet itself. Europa Base buried beneath miles of ice. The ring stations around Saturn disguised as natural debris. Dozens of smaller outposts scattered throughout the outer system. The Zephyrians are in for quite a surprise, she said. On his ship near Earth, Commander Vexthul watched as his crew finished their final scans. The planet would be useful for mining operations once they set up extraction facilities. Rich in metals, good water reserves, decent gravity. A shame about the natives, but such was the way of things. Set course for Zephyr Prime, he commanded. Our work here is finished. The great ship turned away from Earth and engaged its faster-than-light drive. Within moments it was gone, leaving only empty space behind. But the space was not truly empty. Hidden sensors tracked the ship's departure. Human observers noted its heading and speed. Communication arrays disguised as asteroids sent coded messages to bases throughout the system. In the deep bunkers beneath Earth's surface, the remaining humans received the all-clear signal. They had survived the first test. The aliens believed their lie. Now came the harder part, staying hidden while building the strength to fight back. Captain Morrison stood and walked to the main display showing their hidden fleet. Ships that looked like asteroids or space debris from the outside, but carried weapons and technology that would surprise any alien commander foolish enough to underestimate humanity. They think they're the hunters, he said quietly. Time to show them who the real predators are in this system. 6 months had passed since the galaxy declared humanity extinct. Deep beneath Europa's frozen surface, Dr. Ben Taylor adjusted the focus on his microscope and smiled. The alien technology fragment glowed with an inner light that defied human understanding. But Ben was getting closer to unlocking its secrets. Any progress with the quantum resonators? Asked Dr. Lisa Chen as she entered the laboratory. Ice crystals fell from her thermal suit as she removed her helmet. More than progress, Ben replied, his eyes bright with excitement. I think I've figured out how their faster-than-light communication works. It's not just quantum entanglement. They're using something much more elegant. Lisa moved to her own workstation where dozens of screens showed intercepted alien transmissions. For the past 3 months, she had been breaking the codes that the Galactic Council thought were unbreakable. The aliens had no idea that every message they sent was being read by the species they believed was dead. You need to see this, she said, pulling up the latest intelligence reports. The Zephyrians aren't just mining our asteroid belt. They're strip mining it, taking everything valuable and shipping it back to their empire. Ben looked at the data with growing anger. Humanity's solar system was being carved up like a feast while they hid in the shadows. How many ships? 47 mining vessels, 12 escort ships, and 3 command carriers. They've set up processing stations on Ceres and Vesta. Lisa paused, then added quietly, They have no idea we're living inside those asteroids. The irony was almost funny. The aliens were literally mining the rocks that sheltered human civilization. Ceres Station housed nearly 50,000 humans in a network of tunnels and chambers carved from the asteroid's interior. The miners worked above them, taking surface materials while the real treasure lay hidden below. On Vesta, Commander Alex Rodriguez watched alien mining equipment through hidden cameras. His base was the largest in the system, home to over 100,000 humans and the central command for all resistance operations. The aliens thought they owned the asteroid, but they controlled only the top few miles. Sir, reported Lieutenant Karen Price, his intelligence officer, we've identified weak points in their mining operation. 3 critical failure points that would shut down the entire Ceres facility. Alex studied the tactical display. How long before we could disable them? 6 hours for a complete sabotage operation. We make it look like equipment failure, and they'll never know we were there. This was the delicate balance humanity had maintained for months. They could strike at the aliens, but only in ways that looked like accidents or natural phenomena. The moment the aliens suspected active resistance, the game would be over. Execute the plan, Alex ordered, but keep it subtle. Make them think their equipment is just unreliable in our system. 3 hours later, fusion reactors on the Ceres mining station began experiencing cascading failures. Safety systems triggered automatic shutdowns. Backup power failed. Life support systems went offline in non-critical areas. The alien miners evacuated in panic, assuming that some unknown property of the asteroid was interfering with their technology. They had no way of knowing that human engineers had been carefully introducing microfractures into critical components for weeks. Commander Vector of the mining fleet sent an urgent message to Zephyr Prime. Request immediate technical support. Our equipment continues to malfunction in ways that our engineers cannot explain. Beginning to suspect unusual electromagnetic properties in this system. The message was intercepted by Lisa's team on Europa. She laughed as she read it. Unusual electromagnetic properties. If only they knew. Meanwhile, on the hidden base inside Pluto's moon Charon, Admiral Sarah Blake coordinated the larger strategy. At 62, she was one of the oldest humans in the Resistance, a former naval officer who had volunteered to command humanity's most distant outpost. "Ma'am," called Ensign Tony Clark from the communications station, "we're receiving reports from all outer system bases. The aliens are expanding their operations." Sarah studied the strategic display. Red dots showed alien positions throughout the solar system. Blue dots marked human bases. There were far more blue dots than the aliens suspected. "They're getting comfortable," she observed. "Time to make them uncomfortable." The next phase of resistance operations began across multiple fronts. On Titan, human saboteurs caused a chemical processing plant to explode in what appeared to be an industrial accident. Near Jupiter, navigation beacons mysteriously reprogrammed themselves, sending 3 alien cargo ships far off course. Most effective were the ghost signals. Dr. Chen had learned to use the aliens' own communication network against them. False orders appeared in their systems, countermanding previous instructions. Supply shipments were redirected to empty space. Scientific data was corrupted in ways that looked like transmission errors. The aliens began to consider the Sol system cursed. Equipment that worked perfectly everywhere else in the galaxy failed consistently here. Ships suffered navigation errors. Communication systems produced phantom signals that seemed to come from nowhere. "Perhaps we should abandon this system," suggested Science Officer Kira Zone during a meeting aboard the command ship, Stellar Dominion. "The resource extraction is not worth the constant technical difficulties." Commander Vector disagreed. "The mineral wealth here is too valuable. We just need better equipment, more robust systems." What he did not know was that the better equipment would also be sabotaged. Human agents had infiltrated the supply chain months ago. Every replacement part, every new system, came with hidden modifications that would ensure continued failures. Dr. Ben Taylor had made another breakthrough on Europa. Working with fragments of alien technology, he had developed a way to not just intercept their communications, but to modify them in real time. Every message the alien sent could be subtly altered before reaching its destination. "We can make them paranoid," he explained to Lisa. "Small changes in routine reports. Missing data that makes them question their own people. False readings that suggest their equipment is being tampered with." Lisa smiled at the possibilities. "And the best part is they'll never trace it back to us. As far as they know, we don't exist." The psychological warfare was just as important as the physical sabotage. The aliens were beginning to argue among themselves, questioning orders and doubting their equipment. Morale was dropping across their entire operation. In the deepest levels of Vesta Station, human engineers worked on projects that would have seemed impossible a year ago. Using alien technology as a foundation, they were building weapons and defenses that surpassed anything in their enemy's arsenal. "The reactive armor is holding up well in testing," reported Chief Engineer Kate Williams. "We can absorb directed energy weapons and convert the power to strengthen our shields." "And the cloaking systems?" asked Commander Rodriguez. "Better than alien stealth technology. We've learned to bend light around our ships in ways they never imagined." These advances came from studying captured alien equipment and combining it with human innovation. Humanity had always excelled at taking existing technology and improving it beyond recognition. The aliens were about to learn this lesson the hard way. As the months passed, the resistance grew stronger while the alien occupation grew weaker. More humans joined the hidden bases as evacuation operations continued in secret. Resources flowed between bases through a network of disguised transport ships that the aliens never detected. The galaxy believed humanity was extinct, but the truth was very different. Hidden throughout their own solar system, 2 million humans were preparing for the day when they would reveal themselves to their would-be conquerors. That day was coming soon. Commander Vexthul stood on the bridge of his flagship Eternal Dominion as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Jupiter. The massive ship dwarfed anything humanity had ever built, bristling with weapons and scientific equipment that represented the pinnacle of Zephyrian technology. "Sir," reported his sensor officer, "we're detecting the same anomalous readings that have been plaguing our mining operations." Vexthul frowned as he studied the display. In the year since the mining fleet had arrived in the Sol system, they had lost more equipment and personnel than in any previous operation. Ships disappeared. Equipment failed in impossible ways. Workers reported strange signals and phantom contacts. "Dr. Kirazon," he called to his chief scientist, "what is your assessment?" The four-eyed researcher manipulated her instruments with practiced efficiency. "The electromagnetic readings are unlike anything in our databases. It's as if the very fabric of space in this system has been altered." What she did not know was that human observers were watching every move she made. Hidden sensors throughout the system tracked the Eternal Dominion from the moment it arrived. Captain Morrison and his team on Vesta had been expecting this visit for months. "Big ship," commented Lieutenant Amy Stevens as she studied the tactical display. "Bigger than anything we've seen before." "That means it's important," Morrison replied. "They're not just here to investigate equipment failures. They suspect something." The human resistance had grown bold in recent months. What started as simple sabotage had evolved into a complex campaign of misdirection and psychological warfare. The aliens were beginning to question their own sanity. Dr. Kirazon deployed a network of advanced sensor probes throughout the asteroid belt. Each probe was a masterpiece of alien technology, capable of detecting the smallest trace of artificial activity. What she found confused her even more. "Commander," she reported several hours later, "I'm detecting energy signatures that match our own technology, but in locations where none of our ships have ever been." "Explain." "The sensors are picking up quantum resonance patterns identical to our communication arrays, but they're coming from inside asteroids where we've never built anything." Unknown to the aliens, human engineers had been reverse engineering their technology for over a year. Dr. Ben Taylor's team on Europa had not only learned to duplicate alien systems but to improve upon them. The energy signatures Kirazon detected were coming from human-built equipment using alien principles. "Could there be a natural explanation?" Vexthul asked. Science Officer Theckamar shook his head. "These patterns are too complex, too organized. They suggest the presence of advanced technology." The investigation took a more serious turn. If there was hidden technology in the system, it could only mean one thing: they were not alone. But who could be hiding here? The humans were extinct. The system had been thoroughly surveyed. "Deploy security teams to investigate the largest anomalies," Vexthul ordered. "Use full stealth protocols. If someone is hiding in the system, I want to know who." The order set off alarm bells throughout the human resistance. Hidden observation posts tracked the deployment of Zephyrian stealth ships. The aliens were getting closer to discovering the truth. Commander Rodriguez called an emergency meeting of all base commanders. Holographic projections connected the leadership scattered across the solar system in a secure conference that the aliens could not detect. "They're actively searching now," he reported. "Stealth teams are moving toward Ceres and Pallas. We need to decide how to respond." Admiral Blake's image flickered slightly as the signal reached her distant base near Pluto. "We're not ready for full disclosure. Our main fleet is still under construction." "We may not have a choice," replied Dr. Chen from Europa. "If they find one of our bases, the secret is out anyway." Captain Morrison leaned forward in his chair. "Then we control the revelation. We show them exactly what we want them to see when we want them to see it." The plan they developed was audacious. Rather than hide from the alien investigators, they would lead them into a carefully prepared trap. The aliens would discover humans in the system, but only the humans that the resistance wanted them to find. Chief Engineer Kate Williams had been working on a special project for months. Deep in the workshops of Vesta Station, her team had built a decoy base using mostly human technology, with just enough alien components to seem authentic. It looked like a small research facility that had somehow survived the supposed extinction. "The beauty of it," she explained, "is that it tells a story they'll want to believe. A few thousand survivors barely hanging on, using scavenged alien technology to stay alive. The decoy base was positioned in a small asteroid near Mars. It was designed to look desperate and primitive compared to the real human facilities. Old-style radio transmissions leaked from poorly shielded equipment. Life support systems appeared to be failing. Everything suggested a dying remnant of humanity, not a thriving resistance. Lieutenant Danny Murphy volunteered to command the decoy operation. His team of 50 humans would pose as survivors who had been hiding since the supposed extinction. They carried forged records and fabricated personal histories that would stand up to alien scrutiny. "Remember," Morrison briefed them, "you're refugees, not resistance fighters. You've been struggling to survive. You know nothing about our real operations." The Zephyrian stealth ship Silent Hunter detected the decoy base 3 days after it began transmitting distress signals. Captain Yulthron could hardly believe his sensors. "Confirmed human life signs," his tactical officer reported. "Approximately 50 individuals. Technology level appears primitive, mostly salvaged components." Yulthron immediately transmitted the discovery to the Eternal Dominion. Within hours, Vexthul himself arrived to investigate. "So the reports of extinction were premature," he mused as he studied the small base. "A few survivors managed to escape the solar flare." Dr. Kirazan was fascinated by the discovery. "Their technology is crude but functional. They've been cannibalizing our abandoned equipment to survive." The aliens saw exactly what the humans wanted them to see: a pathetic remnant of a once promising species, barely clinging to life in the ruins of their solar system. It never occurred to them that they were looking at an elaborate deception. "Bring them aboard," Vexthul ordered. "I want to question them about their survival." This was the moment Danny Murphy had trained for. As Zephyrian soldiers escorted him and his team to the alien ship, he maintained the appearance of a desperate survivor. His clothes were patched and worn. His equipment was obviously makeshift. Everything about him screamed of a species on the edge of extinction. "Please," he said to Vexthul during the interrogation, "we just want to live in peace. We thought we were the only ones left." Vexthul studied the human with a mixture of curiosity and contempt. "How many more of your kind survive?" "We don't know," Danny replied truthfully. "Communications have been down since the flare. Maybe a few hundred scattered across the system. Maybe we're all that's left." The alien commander believed every word. Why wouldn't he? The evidence supported the story. The base was primitive. The humans appeared malnourished and desperate. Their technology was clearly inferior. What Vexthul did not know was that every moment of the interrogation was being monitored by the real human leadership. Advanced listening devices smaller than dust particles had been planted throughout the alien ship by Danny's team during their capture. "Phase 3 is a go," Morrison announced to his commanders after listening to the interrogation. "They've taken the bait completely. The aliens now believed they understood the situation. A few pathetic human survivors were hiding in their dead system, scavenging like animals to stay alive. It was almost sad. Perhaps they could be useful as a labor force or for scientific study. But as the Eternal Dominion prepared to depart with its human prisoners, other plans were already in motion. The revelation of human survival would spread quickly through the Galactic Council. When it did, humanity would be ready with surprises that would shake the galaxy to its core. The aliens thought they had found the last remnants of humanity. Instead, they had just triggered the beginning of the end for their empire. News of the human survivors spread through the Galactic Council like wildfire. Within days, every species in the galaxy knew that humanity was not extinct after all. The discovery changed everything. "A few hundred survivors at most," reported Council Speaker Morden to the assembled delegates. "Commander Vexthul's investigation confirms they pose no threat to galactic security. They have been surviving on scavenged technology and appear to be slowly dying out." The Altarian delegate, War Chief Zargeth, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Perhaps we should offer assistance. Humanitarian aid for a species facing extinction." "Unnecessary," replied the Zephyrian ambassador. "They are better left to fade away naturally. Intervention would only prolong their suffering." What the Council did not know was that human agents were sitting among them at that very moment. Ambassador Clark Henderson had been posing as a Centaurian trade representative for 3 years. His genetic modifications and surgical alterations were so complete that even advanced alien scanners could not detect his true species. As he listened to the aliens debate humanity's fate, Clark activated a hidden recording device. Every word would be transmitted back to the human resistance as evidence of the Council's true nature. On Vesta Station, Captain Morrison watched the Council session through intercepted communications. They're planning to let us die slowly instead of killing us quickly. How generous. Admiral Blake's voice came through the quantum communicator from her base near Pluto. All teams report ready for Operation Ghost Protocol. We have agents in position on 47 worlds across the galaxy. Dr. Chen, Morrison called to the scientist, are our communication networks ready? Better than ready, Lisa replied from her station on Europa. We've been piggybacking on their quantum relay system for months. When we activate the global broadcast, every screen in the galaxy will carry our message. The plan was ambitious beyond anything humanity had ever attempted. For 3 years, human agents had been infiltrating alien society using advanced disguises and false identities. They had become traders, diplomats, technicians, and researchers. They had learned alien languages, customs, and secrets. Now it was time to reveal the truth. At exactly 12:04 Galactic Standard Time, screens across thousands of worlds went dark. Then simultaneously they all displayed the same image, a human face. President Maria Rodriguez stood in the rebuilt capital of New Geneva, deep beneath Earth's surface. Behind her, the blue and green flag of United Earth hung proudly. Citizens of the galaxy, she began, her voice carrying across star systems through hijacked communication networks. You have been told that humanity is extinct. You have been told that we are a primitive species that could not survive the harsh realities of space. These are lies. The reaction was immediate and chaotic. On the Galactic Council station, alarms blared as security officers tried to shut down the transmission. They failed. Human agents had taken control of too many critical systems. For 3 years, President Rodriguez continued, we have lived among you. We have observed your society, your politics, your treatment of developing species. What we have seen disgusts us. Ambassador Henderson stood up in the council chamber and removed his disguise with a touch of a hidden control. His Centaurian features melted away, revealing his human face. Gasps echoed through the chamber as other delegates realized they had been deceived. Allow me to introduce myself properly, he said with a smile. Ambassador Clark Henderson, representing the United Human Colonies. We've been taking notes. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out as human agents revealed themselves. Trade negotiations were disrupted as supposed alien merchants showed their true faces. Scientific conferences erupted in chaos as researchers discovered that breakthrough discoveries had come from hidden human scientists. The broadcast continued with devastating revelations. Video evidence showed Galactic Council forces attacking peaceful worlds that refused to join their empire. Audio recordings proved that the Council's humanitarian interventions were actually resource grabs. Financial records revealed the systematic exploitation of weaker species. You call yourselves a peaceful alliance, President Rodriguez said, her voice hard with anger. But you are nothing more than an empire built on lies and oppression. Today, that empire begins to crumble. On the Eternal Dominion, Commander Vexthal watched in growing horror as the transmission exposed decades of carefully hidden crimes. His own actions were featured prominently, including the orders to strip mine the Sol system after declaring humanity extinct. Sir, his communications officer called out, we're receiving distress calls from mining operations throughout the human system. Multiple equipment failures across all facilities. The equipment failures were not accidental. As the broadcast continued, human saboteurs throughout the Sol system activated hidden programs that had been years in the making. Mining ships found their navigation systems reversed, sending them crashing into asteroids. Processing plants suffered cascading failures that would take months to repair. But the real surprise was yet to come. Perhaps you wonder how we have accomplished all of this, President Rodriguez said as the broadcast neared its end. How a supposedly primitive species could infiltrate your society so completely. The answer is simple. You underestimated us. You always have. The screen changed to show images of human technology that made alien equipment look primitive by comparison. Ships that could become invisible to any sensor. Weapons that turned directed energy attacks back on their attackers. Communication systems that operated on principles the aliens had never imagined. We learned from your technology, the president explained. We improved upon it. We surpassed it. And now we offer you a choice. The choice was simple but revolutionary. The current galactic order would end. Species that had been oppressed would be freed. The Galactic Council would be dissolved and replaced with a true alliance based on equality and mutual respect. Those who choose cooperation will find us generous partners, President Rodriguez concluded. Those who choose conflict will discover that humanity is no longer the weak species you remember. The broadcast ended, leaving the galaxy in chaos. On dozens of worlds, oppressed species began to rebel against their Zephyrian overlords. The Altarians declared independence from the Galactic Council. The Vegan traders refused to continue shipping resources to Zephyrian worlds. Commander Vexthal found himself facing a choice he had never expected to make. His empire was crumbling, his forces were scattered, and his enemies had technology that surpassed his own. "Sir," Captain Yulthran approached him carefully, "perhaps we should consider negotiation. These humans have clearly advanced far beyond our initial assessments." Vexthal studied the tactical displays showing the chaos throughout his empire. Human agents had struck simultaneously across dozens of star systems. Critical infrastructure was failing. Communication networks were compromised. The carefully maintained order of centuries was collapsing in a matter of hours. "Contact the human leadership," he said finally. "Arrange a meeting." On Vesta Station, Captain Morrison smiled as he received the transmission. "They want to negotiate." "Good," replied Admiral Blake. "But negotiations come from a position of strength. Show them what that strength looks like." Throughout the Sol system, hidden ships began to decloak. Not the crude disguises the aliens had seen before, but vessels that had been completely invisible until this moment. Hundreds of ships appeared around the alien mining operations, their sleek hulls gleaming with advanced armor and unknown weapons. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer hiding. The species that had been declared extinct was very much alive, and they were far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The galaxy would never be the same. The conference room aboard the human flagship Rising Phoenix was unlike anything the alien delegates had ever seen. The walls displayed a three-dimensional map of the galaxy, with real-time updates showing the collapse of the old galactic order. Red zones marked areas where fighting had broken out. Blue zones showed regions that had declared independence from the Galactic Council. Commander Vexthal sat across from President Rodriguez, his scaled hands folded carefully on the polished metal table. 2 weeks had passed since the human revelation, and his empire was falling apart faster than he could comprehend. "Your terms are harsh," he said, studying the document before him. "Our terms are fair," President Rodriguez replied calmly. "Complete withdrawal from all occupied worlds, reparations for damages caused by forced resource extraction, recognition of the independence of all species currently under Galactic Council control." Admiral Blake, now serving as humanity's chief military representative, added, "Consider the alternative, Commander. Your fleets are scattered. Your communication networks are compromised. Half your member species are in open rebellion. We could simply wait for your empire to collapse entirely." It was true, and Vexthal knew it. The Altarians had not only declared independence but were actively hunting Zephyrian ships in their territory. The peaceful Vegan traders had cut off all supply lines to Zephyrian worlds. Even species that had been loyal for centuries were questioning their allegiance. Captain Yulthran, who had been allowed to attend as Vexthal's advisor, spoke up. "What guarantee do we have that humans will honor this agreement? You have already proven yourselves masters of deception." Dr. Lisa Chen, representing humanity's scientific community, smiled at the question. "The same guarantee you gave to the species you conquered." "None at all. The difference is that we actually mean what we say." She activated a holographic display showing the restoration projects already underway throughout human space. On Ceres, we're helping displaced Altarian refugees establish new homes. On Europa, we're sharing our medical technology with vegan healers. On Titan, we're working with former slaves to rebuild their industrial base. The images showed something remarkable. Humans and aliens working together as equals, not as masters and servants. It was a model of cooperation that the Galactic Council had never achieved. "This is what a real alliance looks like," President Rodriguez explained. "Not conquest disguised as protection, but genuine partnership based on mutual benefit." Commander Vexthal was not the only alien leader facing this choice. Across the galaxy, the old power structure was crumbling as species after species, chose independence over subjugation. The evidence of council crimes that humanity had broadcast was damning and irrefutable. On the former council station above Zephyr Prime, War Chief Zargoth met with representatives from a dozen liberated worlds. The massive Altarian warrior had taken control of the facility in a bloodless coup, aided by human intelligence and technology. "The question before us," he announced to the assembly, "is what comes next. The old council is finished, but we need something to replace it." The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Ben Taylor, working from his laboratory on Europa, had developed a new communication protocol that allowed instant, unhackable communication between any number of participants. Unlike the old council system, this network could not be controlled by any single species. "We call it the Democratic Network," he explained during a broadcast to all interested parties. "Every species gets an equal voice. No one can silence or manipulate the communications of others. Decisions are made by consensus, not by force." The technology was revolutionary, but the principle behind it was even more so. For the first time in galactic history, different species could communicate as true equals. Chief Engineer Kate Williams demonstrated the system's capabilities during a live test. Representatives from 50 different worlds participated in a single conversation, their words automatically translated into whatever language each participant preferred. The quality was perfect and the system was completely transparent. "No more secret deals," she announced. "No more hidden agendas. Everything discussed on the Democratic Network is recorded and available to all participants." The response was overwhelming. Within days, over 200 worlds had requested access to the network. Species that had been enemies for centuries began talking to each other directly for the first time. But not everyone was happy with the changes. Some Zephyrian colonies refused to accept the new order. Hardline commanders like Admiral Kextar chose to fight rather than negotiate. Captain Morrison, now commanding the human expeditionary fleet, found himself leading a coalition force against these holdouts. The irony was not lost on him. The species that had been declared extinct was now leading the fight to liberate the galaxy. "Target their command ship," he ordered as his fleet engaged. "Kextar's forces near the Rigel system. Disable, don't destroy. We're here to end this war, not extend it." Human weapon technology proved devastatingly effective. Energy shields that could absorb and redirect incoming fire. Projectile weapons that could penetrate any known armor. Electronic warfare systems that could take control of enemy ships without firing a shot. The battle was over in less than an hour. Admiral Kextar's flagship hung dead in space, its crew unharmed but their weapons offline. It was a demonstration of power that sent a clear message to any other commanders considering resistance. "This is your final warning," Morrison broadcast to the defeated fleet. "Accept the new order or face the consequences." One by one, the remaining Zephyrian holdouts surrendered. The old empire was finished and everyone knew it. The transformation of galactic society took longer than the military campaign. Species that had been enemies for generations had to learn to trust each other. Worlds that had been strip-mined needed to be restored. Billions of sentient beings had to adapt to a new way of life. President Rodriguez established her government in the restored city of New Geneva on Earth's surface. The planet that had been declared dead was now the diplomatic center of a new galactic alliance. Ships from dozens of worlds arrived daily, carrying diplomats, traders, and scientists eager to participate in the new order. "1 year ago," she said during the first session of the Galactic Democracy, "we were declared extinct. Today we stand as partners with species from across the galaxy. This transformation proves that cooperation is always stronger than conquest." The chamber erupted in applause from representatives of over 300 worlds. Humans sat beside Altarians, vegans, Centaurians, and dozens of other species. Even some reformed Zephyrians had joined the alliance, choosing cooperation over isolation. Dr. Chen presented her latest project to the assembly, a universal education network that would share knowledge freely between all member worlds. "No species should have to rediscover what others already know," she explained. "By sharing our discoveries, we all advance together." The network would include everything from basic science to advanced technology, from artistic techniques to philosophical insights. It represented the kind of cooperation that the old council had never allowed. Commander Vexthul, who had chosen to join the alliance rather than face exile, found himself working alongside the humans he had once tried to subjugate. I still do not fully understand how you accomplished all of this, he admitted to Captain Morrison during a break in the proceedings. Morrison smiled as he looked out at the mixed crews working together on the station. We did what humans have always done. We adapted. We learned. We refused to give up. But the deception, the infiltration, the coordination across such vast distances. We had good teachers, Morrison replied. Your empire showed us exactly what we needed to fight against. And once we understood the enemy, victory was inevitable. The final ceremony took place on Earth's restored surface under a sky that was blue and clear for the first time in years. Representatives from across the galaxy gathered to sign the Charter of Galactic Democracy, establishing the principles that would guide their new alliance. President Rodriguez stood before the assembly as the sun set over New Geneva. We have learned that diversity is strength, that cooperation is more powerful than conquest, and that no species should stand alone in the vastness of space. The charter was signed by over 400 worlds, establishing the largest peaceful alliance in galactic history. Trade routes reopened under fair terms, scientific research accelerated as knowledge was shared freely, art and culture flourished as different species learned from each other. The species that had been declared extinct had not only survived, but had transformed the galaxy itself. Where once there had been empire and oppression, now there was democracy and cooperation. Where once there had been fear and hatred, now there was trust and partnership. Captain Morrison stood on the observation deck of the rising Phoenix as it orbited Earth, watching ships from dozens of worlds come and go in peaceful commerce. The planet that aliens had thought was dead now teemed with life from across the galaxy. Reports of our death, he said quietly to himself, were greatly exaggerated.